Good evening. Hi, I'm Ethan Evans. I'm going to turn the light up just a tiny bit. 1 second. Hey, awesome. Yeah, that's a little better. All right. Hey, everybody. It's party time. I have a ton to cover tonight. But for anybody here who's new, I'm Ethan, and I'm Vice President of Twitch Prime at Amazon. Many of you know that. Tonight, particularly, though, I am not speaking on behalf of Amazon because I want to talk about a tough subject, which is diversity and employment. And that's going to take a little while. So my moderators are going to bang away at you relentlessly with the fact that my views are my own, because we want that on the record in case I say something that people particularly don't like. Not that that's my intention. Why do I keep hitting this? Because I want to talk about diversity, and diversity is a flashpoint topic, and I am not an expert on it, and so I don't want to represent my blathering as representing Amazon. But here's what I do want to say. I have an executive on my team who's leaving. He's going to another great job. Sometimes, by the way, you get to be super happy for someone who's taking a new job. The guy on my team is going to work at a mission-driven nonprofit foundation trying to change the world for the better. And I fully support him doing that. But it means I'm missing a manager and I need to fill a role. And so now we're going to get some real talk about the challenges. Let's see. What are the challenges here? So first I want to share, I had to fill an executive role 6 months ago. And one of the things I'd like to do is have more diversity on my team. Now, diversity can mean a lot of things. But in the normal definition in America, and I'll get this definition wrong, so don't quote me. But diversity includes a bunch of equal employment opportunity protected statuses. And we talk about both men versus women, and also underrepresented minorities. And underrepresented minorities do not include all minorities or all races and backgrounds, or ethnicities. But I also value in my team diversity on a much larger scale, which simply means having people from different backgrounds that will bring new ideas and different thoughts. So what I want to do is show you what a real executive search looks like from the inside so you can learn a little bit about it, and also talk about what sucks that we have to fix as a society and be honest about it. And I'd love your questions and discussion, and I will try to answer them honestly. So I know a lot of you know our question tool. And the moderators will be approving questions and putting them in there. There are none right now, but if you want to ask me questions about this stuff later, we'll get to it. Let me first show you, though, what I did is because 6 months ago when I tried to fill a role, and I thought about diversity to try and find some candidates that weren't, frankly, white males. And by the way, this is important. I believe I hired the best person I could find. And I and the interview team, and hopefully any company, you hire whoever you feel is most qualified based on whatever your criteria are when you assess. And a company that hires the best person, regardless of their background, does not have a quota system. But you can have a goal of at least talking to candidates from different backgrounds. So the most famous version of this is what's called the Rooney Rule. And so the Rooney Rule has benefits and drawbacks. But if I understand the Rooney Rule correctly, which comes from the American football world, NFL football, in the Rooney Rule, they established that they would always, for any open head coaching position, you had to at least interview one minority background candidate. Maybe they said African American, maybe they didn't. From a practical viewpoint, I think whether they said African American or not, it's usually an African American. The point was they noticed that it was mostly black football players being mostly coached, i.e. managed by white men. And they said, you know what? How would the world be stirred up if black players sometimes or often had black coaches? So they put in place this Rooney Rule. And I don't know the exact definition of the rule. I'm sure someone can Google it. But how would the world change if football always at least interviewed someone from a different background? They didn't have to hire them. They never told the owner, oh, of every 10 open coaching positions, one of them has to be black or two of them have to be minority. They never did that. But what they did is they said, at least talk to somebody. And what they learned is that more African-American coaches got hired. There's another piece of research like this. Symphonies, orchestras. I'm going to talk about symphony. Perfect, Danny. Same thing. We're on the same page. So in orchestras or symphonies, what they found is when they were hiring, if you could see the candidates, white men got hired. Mostly men. But if you put them behind a blind screen so that they didn't have to talk, so you couldn't hear their voices, and they only played their instruments, and the hiring committees needed to hire based on how good their violin sounded or how good their French horn sounded, suddenly a lot more women got the jobs. So there's this interesting evidence of two things that come from that. Number one, if you actually talk to more minority candidates, you can end up with more diversity. And number two, if you can't tell if it's a man or a woman or what color, hiring changes as a result. Okay, so fast forward to a real situation. 6 months ago, I needed to hire for a role, and I went to our recruiting team, and I said, hey, I'd love to see some diverse candidates for this. And they said, well, we always work on that. And they're very well-intentioned. They're very hardworking. They said, we always work on diverse candidates. But at least at that time, I wasn't impressed with the plan they were able to give me to effectively find candidates of different backgrounds. And instead, what happened was basically I ended up filling the role with the first good person I could find. And that person happened to be a white man. People on my team who had hoped I had increased the diversity on my team were unhappy. But what I learned is if you don't prepare in advance to be ready to find diverse candidates, you're not gonna. Now, why does this matter? Like all of you who may be listening may be wondering, who cares? You hired a good person, whatever, right? Like maybe, if the first person had been from some other background or a different gender, you'd have hired them. And that's true. But why does it matter? Well, there is actual evidence from the Harvard Business Review and others that a more diverse leadership team, a more diverse team of any kind, reaches better decisions that actually perform better economically. So the economics of having a diverse organization are actually somewhat demonstrated. There's a number of studies that show this. For example, boards of companies that have a female board member perform better than boards of companies that don't. Now, that one you can ask, is it causation or is it causality? Is it companies that are forward-thinking enough to have a female board member are also forward-thinking enough to perform well? Or is it that the female board member makes them better? That's unproven as far as I know. But bottom line is, and Awesome saying this, he works in venture capital. It's mandated in many places now. Regardless, the key finding is a diverse team will argue more, debate more, reach consensus more slowly, but end up with better results. So if you want mindless followers, and awesome, you can message that stuff to Pink Dragons and she can repost it if there's a link you want to send. You can, if you want stuff done that takes no thought and you just need compliance, having a homogenous team of all the same type of people, race, color, religion, creed, orientation, etc., they will get together and dig the ditch down the planned line faster. But almost all the work we do these days does not isn't mindless, follow the orders, dig the ditch. Now, I know a few of you will immediately pop off in chat, which I always enjoy, and say, that's my job. I don't have any say. I flip burgers, and if I flip the burger, the manual says flip it from right to left, and if I break away from that and flip it from left to right, they fire me. So I'm totally constrained in burger flipping. Sorry, Danny, we have links turned off, but you can message them to any of our moderators using Whisper, and they can add them in. Yeah, Doom1313, there is definitely proof of diversity being economically advantageous. And there's one of the articles, How Diversity Makes Us Smarter. Thank you, Pink Dragons, for reposting. And we have to have links turned off because sometimes people on Twitch misbehave. So continuing this fairly real talk, I was trying to, here's where a hiring manager gets pinched. This guy's leaving my team. His last day is tomorrow. So I need to, now I was doing a job. I felt quite busy. I felt I was working a full job. Now he leaves. I need to hunt. I need to still do my job. I need to hunt for his replacement. And I need to take over doing part or all of his job because the job is empty. So, for example, he had 5 or 6 direct reports. They're now my direct reports. So I had one-on-ones with the people on my team that used to report to him. Now I have more one-on-ones, is more hours of meetings. Plus I have meetings with the recruiters. Plus I have meetings interviewing candidates. Plus I'm doing search. Now, wow, poor me. Well, here's where diversity suffers. From a personal pain viewpoint, my number one motive is fill the role with anyone who can do the job. And I am motivated to fill it as fast as possible. Now, the challenge is we've had historic differences in the progression of women and certain minorities in leadership roles. So for me to find a qualified woman or minority candidate or any of the other diverse backgrounds is going to take more effort than probably, not certainly, but could likely take more effort to go find those candidates than to go find the more common candidates, the white men, the sometimes Asian men who dominate tech leadership. So this is where the rubber hits the road on diversity. From a personal pain viewpoint, it is, I won't say better, but sure as hell easier for me to just do what we've always done and hire the first person who shows up, the first person recruiters can find for me, which, by the way, statistically will be another white man. And so I wanted to, so Kristen correctly says, to put in the time earlier to be connected to at the right time for the opportunity is a lot of work. And this is why networking is so important. So now I want to share. So the first thing I want to do is be transparent about the problem. The second thing I want to do is be transparent about a hidden problem someone pointed out to me about a year ago. Would you say me going into the tech field as a white male would be more a hindrance or an asset? Oh, I think it quote unquote shouldn't be, but I think it's clearly going to be an asset. You're going to be in your tribe with other people that are like you, and it's a white male, predominantly white male field. At least right now, it's going to totally play in your favor. Maybe it shouldn't, but it's going to totally play in your favor. And Dr. Miller 94, you say HR should have a huge impact by providing more diverse candidates. They could. They have the same problem at some level, though. And I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. Danny, do you mind if I talk about your role here? I won't talk about it until I get a yes back in chat or an it's fine. But I'll show you what we're trying to do about it. Okay. So Danny is our diversity Jedi in our team. So she's a full-time dedicated senior hire solely focused on increasing the diversity of our org. And that's all she does is try to work with historically black colleges to find interns. She can say more about it, but she's full-time dedicated in our organization to increasing the diversity of our organization and building those relationships. Unfortunately for me, Danny is mostly focused at the levels where there's a lot of openings, not the executive level. So she's a big ally to me in what I'm going to talk about, but she didn't have like a ready set of executive candidates. And she's a technical program manager on a Quest, not part of HR. But HR also helps with this. The problem is it's really hard. It's so hard because let's say I have an all-white team or an all-white male team or just an all-male team. A woman comes to that team. She looks around, sees 8 dudes on the team, and is like, yeah, maybe not. A person of color comes around, sees a group where there's nobody like them. They take a look around and they're like, ugh, maybe not this place. And so if you get into a situation where you're kind of homogenous, it's really hard to get out of it because the people don't want to come. And then when they come, they find that they don't fit in the same way. Meaning some of their background, whether it's religious or their behaviors or assumptions, aren't shared. So I have a good friend who is in HR. She happens to be a black woman, and she was pointing out to me a difference where, as a white guy, when I see a cop, what I mostly think of is, I hope that guy's not going to give me a ticket. And then if he gets in my face, I feel completely safe telling him, hey, back down. You work for me. Your job as a police officer is to protect me, and right now you're just pissing me off. If I'm the same size, 6'2", and a black man, as was just potentially demonstrated in Georgia, that is a life-threatening set of actions to take. And so, as a dramatic example, the point is that's a police example. But you come into the workplace and you can have the same problems where if you're the only person of your background, you don't have anybody who understands and gets your concerns about life. And yeah, Kristen's talking about this. The only woman in a meeting of all men. It's really tough. And Kristen, it may not have happened yet, but unfortunately, you will be mistaken for the assistant and asked to get coffee or make copies at some point. Even in 2020, that will happen. Or it could happen. I hope it doesn't. But there's plenty of stories of that happening. Okay, so let's go back to the practical. I need to search. My problem is my actual personal motivation is how do I fill this damn job so that I can go back to only doing one job, not doing 3? Because right now I have 3 jobs. I have my job. I have the recruiting job of finding another executive, and I have that executive's job. And I would prefer to have one job than 3 jobs. So I'm really motivated to cheat and cut corners and take the first qualified person I can find and not wait too long for the Rooney Rule and hoping to increase diversity. Now, if I'm really muscled up in this and I have a long-term vision and I'm committed to a greater good, maybe I put in some extra effort to find a diverse candidate. But I just want to explain to all the people listening, not every manager is actually an evil neo-Nazi who wants to keep leadership all in the hands of white men. He's probably just lazy, a little bit lazy, understandably lazy. Like, wow, I was doing one job, now I'm doing three. I want the first person who can get me back down to doing one job. Sometimes, by the way, they may be biased. They may be horrible people. I'm not arguing that. I'm explaining that there are pressures that make it hard to focus on diversity. 40 Pink Dragons worked. She is a boss lady. That's true. She worked in a male-dominated industry. That's also true. All right. Let's see. Okay. What else we got here? So let me bring up this file I wanted to show now. It's going to take me just a second because I want to show how I went about this. So the first thing I decided to do, I decided last time I ended up with no diverse candidates, more or less. And I wanted to do better this time. So I said, okay, what am I going to do differently? And so I had this unique approach I want to at least share because it's worked pretty well. And if you guys have better ideas as a team or as interested people, I am totally open to it. But here is what I did. I went on LinkedIn and I thought about the best post I could make to try to get some candidates from other backgrounds. And so I told the truth and I said, look, let's see. Research says women and minorities self-select out of jobs when they don't meet every listed criteria, and they're more likely to apply if they're invited. So I thought, what the hell? I knew this. Why don't I invite people? So I had this bold heading and I said, this is your invitation. And then I said, yeah, I have an open role. It's leading a large team to deliver publishing services for game developers, which is part of what I do. Rather than link a JD, a job description, I'm reaching out in this unusual way, blah, 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 to engage. You can all read this on the screen. And if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn or if you don't follow me, please do. I always welcome the community. I recommend LinkedIn to build your network. If you're not there and you want a serious professional career, you should get there and get started. So I would get after it. And then I describe what I'm looking for, but I don't give a detailed description on purpose. I'm seeking a tech and product leader who can lead multiple technical teams to deliver a set of services. People who have never managed larger teams or don't have some level of technical background at all are not likely to succeed. Everyone else, I'd love to hear from you. And then I sort of give the legal part. It's true, but I also put this in here to be very clear. In the end, we will attempt to select the best qualified person, regardless of race, gender, and all the other equal opportunity criteria. In this post, I am inviting a broad range of people to apply. So I wanted to be super clear. This post doesn't mean I'll only hire a woman. It doesn't mean I'll only hire a person from a minority background or other protected category. It does mean I'd love to hear from them. And that's, by the way, the law getting in our way in a way. I have to be super careful in what I say. I can't just say, hey, I'd like to hear, I can't make a post. Maybe I could. I don't know the law perfectly. But it would be in poor taste for sure to make a post that says, hey, man, I'd like to get some black applicants. Man, I would love to get some Hispanic applicants. Like that would cross a line. And if I said, oh, I'd really like to hire someone from a Hispanic background for this role, that would probably, I don't know, but that would start to get into trouble of, am I excluding others? So the point is, another thing that makes diversity hard is managers are better off not trying in a way. Because if I F this post up, it's actionable. Or could be. This is a public post from a hiring manager about a job at a company, a big company with a target on its back. And if I write the wrong thing, even though it's me posting personally, it can be cited as, oh, see, Amazon is biased towards or excluding or whatever. As a manager, remember, my number one problem is I want to get out of doing 3 jobs. My number 2 problem is I don't want to get my ass sued off for doing it wrong. And number 3 is I don't want to have HR or legal in my company come down on me and say, what the hell were you doing? Why did you post this? Don't you realize we could be sued? Go take it down immediately. So problem number 1 with diversity is the work it takes. Problem number 2 is there are so many legal landmines or perceived legal landmines that the safest thing to do is just put up a standard job post that says, hey, I need a tech leader, all these criteria, apply. It's too bad. And I'm discussing this here both so that people can see how executive search works, which I'm going to talk about more in a minute, and so you can have some real talk about why diversity is going to be a struggle. We need to ease some of these problems. I don't know how to do that, but I wish there was more safe harbor for hiring managers. And yeah, we ought to Furokey's got a wrench right now because he's in the middle of his internship at Twitch. So we haven't celebrated Furokey in a while. He's a long-term member of the community, been around a long time. You can see his sub badge. But he's interning at Twitch this summer, probably fully remotely, right? So it's good to call out a member of our community. He was probably looking forward to going to the Twitch offices, but they're closed. Furokey was the winner of the interview battle royale that Devin and I did. And he was also the real life winner when he then went and interviewed at Twitch. Well, I hope they at least sent you a purple hoodie as well as giving you a wrench. So someday you can put a picture in Discord or something of you and your staff hoodie. And if they haven't sent you a staff hoodie, let me know and we'll complain. Okay. Ed G, I haven't seen you around in a while. It's good to see you back. Some companies, Danny is here. If she's still here, I think she is. She can talk about stuff we sponsor. Companies are starting to sponsor a lot more. So we are doing more early recruiting and trying to develop people all the way back in high school and stuff to get them on track. So Ed, I haven't caught your whole message, but we are investing in earlier education for sure. So let me finish talking about executive search and talk to you some about how a real search runs now that I've griped and whined and complained about the difficulty of diversity. Let me finish up by talking about how this post worked. Somebody asked earlier in chat, do I know the demographics of who viewed it? I don't. What I do know is it got a lot of response. I'll scroll down. First, it got 198 likes, applauses, etc., and 18 comments. Second, it got 15,000 views almost. It's still climbing slowly. It got 11,000 in the first 2 days, and it's close to 15,000 now. That's a lot more than I usually get on a post. When I make a post now, it'll get between 2,500 and 8,000 views as a range. So this one's kind of double my top end. So it means a lot of people resonated with it. A lot of people did share it. Great. So I reached a lot of people. I also have gotten a lot of responses. And if you're looking at my screen here, you'll see I have 5 people wanting to join my network. Some of that's no doubt you guys. And welcome. I'm glad you're here. And so I have a lot of notifications. I've been corresponding with a number of candidates. And today I found I found a number of good candidates for multiple jobs through this, including one today, I think, who could be qualified for this role. So broadly speaking, it's working. Now, I've complained to Danny, who works with me. It also doesn't work as well as I'd like because people don't read very carefully. So here I say in it, you need to have experience leading a large team. Well, I got tons of replies from people like, ooh, you said leadership position. You said welcome. I want to do it. And they've never led anything. And I'm not bagging on them. It's just they're very enthusiastic and they haven't read. And then further down, there's the part where I said, who can lead multiple technical teams and have some level of technical background. Again, people were so enthusiastic that I definitely got some replies from people who are like very interesting people. Like one person replied and said, well, I'm a medical doctor and I really want to switch industries. Maybe I could do it. Yeah, maybe you could, but I can't take that risk. Remember, when we talk about hiring is all about risk reduction. I don't want to have someone that I have to manage out or let go. What constitutes large? Sure, it's ambiguous, but Maximus, what do you think I meant when I said a large team, a set of several related smaller teams? How small or big? I will reveal what number the team actually is. What do you think that means as a minimum? And again, down here it says multiple. Other people can guess too. So the team is actually 50. So Dr. Miller nailed it. 5 teams of 10 each. Yeah, Furokey, it's really 4 teams of a dozen each. So the point is, and yeah, 300 would be really huge. Streaming is failing? What's wrong? A bunch of you are F in chat. I agree it's subjective what's large. But my point is I had people reply to me that had never led anything or had led only 1 or 2 or 3 people. So where am I leaking? Oh, I'm leaking secrets. I think it's in the job post, but if it's not, this team's about 50. And with that in mind, let's switch over to the job post. So here's the actual job post, which you can go read yourself. This is all public. So it's GM is general manager of game publishing services. So this is the post I did not make over here because I wanted to not scare people off. And there is evidence that says when you get to this part of the job post that lists all these preferred qualifications, people run away. Because if they don't have a master's degree, MBA, or they think, oh, they see master's degree and they're like, oh, I'm out, I don't have that. Or they see, that they only have 9 years of software development, so I'm going to be ruled out. Or they only have 4 years of people management experience, so I'm going to be ruled out. And there's definitely good research that shows that women in particular don't do that. Don't apply unless they're sure. Now, I see you debating in chat, how big of a team can you manage? First, it depends on the function. But second, it depends. This is a collection of smaller teams. So each of those smaller teams has their own managers, sometimes multiple managers, depending on the size of the team. So the person here is only directly managing 5 people, but in total they're managing 50. Similarly, I'm directly managing only a half dozen or so people, but my organization is 200. So, you can manage more than 10 or 15 people if they are all doing the exact same thing. So in a professional like software capacity, we tend to limit management to 8. 6 to 8 is ideal. 10 to 12 is usually the maximum temporary. PMA Dota, thank you for the sub. But In a call center or on the warehouse floor, we sometimes have much larger teams. So if you're managing people who are all packing boxes or all loading boxes into trucks or all answering CS calls, customer service calls about missing packages, you don't need the same depth of detail, and you can manage 15, 20, 25 because you're managing differently. Some companies would even have them manage 50. Danny, don't worry. We have mods who will get rid of people who can't be civil. We have a large community here, and we graciously excuse those who cannot keep a civil tongue. So I want to talk about the job description a little bit because I wanted to show everybody what's a real exec job look like. So this is an Amazon level 8 job. Level 8's director. It's one below vice president. Directors at Amazon can manage fewer than 50. Some of them have up to 200-300 people working for them, and they make a lot of money. It's a well-paying job. So this is a great executive job. And by the way, if you know someone for this job, you should totally send them to me or send them to the big orange apply now button. But I wanted to share what a real job description for an exec looks like. And if you like the wording or hate it, I wrote it, so I'm responsible. I always believe in putting a hook in really early. Why do I bother with that? So I'm trying to ask, are you a technical leader ready to drive growth in the gaming space? I start with a question. Why is that? Most people write job descriptions aimed at what they want. They write their job description around what they want the person to do for them. But the person reading it isn't interested in that. They want to know what's in it for them. As when I read a job description, I want to know, do I want to do the job, not what you want from me. I certainly know you want something from me, but I want to know if the job is good for me. So I start with questions that get you thinking about, are you ready to drive growth in gaming? Okay, what's that mean? Well, I think I can drive growth. What's the gaming space? What's it mean? Lead the publishing services that power Twitch Prime and will bring Amazon games such as New World and our announced co-development of Lord of the Rings to market. Okay, now a little more clarity. The point isn't really to tout or not tout my job description. It's to show that this is what is the alternative to the LinkedIn post. And then there's some description of everything you'll do. There's some stuff about Amazon's position in the game industry. And then we get to the criteria that we'd like. So we're looking for someone who's got a degree in computer science or a related field. It's done some software development, done some people management. There's some stuff we'd like. We'd love them to have an advanced degree or an MBA. So blah, blah, blah. How does this search really work? Well, behind the scenes, there's an executive recruiting team, a team of people who do nothing but look for executives on our behalf. They're a great team, and they start going and finding me candidates. And they have found some candidates from diverse backgrounds and some from non-diverse backgrounds, which is fine, a mix. But I'm pushing only on the diversity side personally to try and increase that. What's the second way to go find candidates? And this is really important. So I work in a gaming group. I work mostly with white male leaders. Danny knows them all. I reached out to my white male peers and said, who do you know that I could go hire for this role? And I gave them really strong motivation. I said, hey, you're going to depend on, like, I went to the guy who's building this game, New World. which is announced. And I went to another person who's building this game, Crucible. And I went to some other folks in the team that are working on other parts of our infrastructure. And I said, you're going to depend on this person that I hire to publish your game. So it's really important I get a great person. Who do you know? Well, of course, executives are predominantly today in America, mostly white men. Who do white men mostly know? Mostly other executives who are mostly other white men. So most of the referrals they gave me were mostly white men living in San Francisco. We're in Seattle, but mostly the candidates I looked at today were white men from San Francisco. The point is there's this closed loop where referrals represent, depending on the size of the company, at Amazon, referrals represent 25 to 30% of the hiring. At other companies, they represent more or less than that. At startups, they're often more. The challenge is, if I want to find diverse candidates, referrals are unlikely to get those to me. And Hop91, I don't know, why is that an issue? Yeah, I didn't see the LOL until I read it. I thought you were serious. So the point is, one thing I've had to learn is that using my referral network is dangerous. But now I'm going to tie you back to that problem of I need two problems in hiring. Remember, I'm in pain. Currently, I'm doing 3 jobs and I really want to do 1. So the faster I hire, the faster I get rid of 2 jobs. Number 2, I want to make a safe hire. I don't want to get someone who might not work out. And referrals, meaning somebody knows the person and has worked with them before, have a statistically better chance of working out, of being performant than non-referrals. Similarly, internal candidates, taking someone from somewhere else in the company and moving them to my spot, have an even higher chance of working out, of being safe, of knowing how Amazon works and knowing how to be successful there. So we have this war. On one side, we have an honest, ethical, social desire to increase diversity in my team, to give opportunity to historically disenfranchised or disadvantaged groups. And on the other hand, we have the fact I'm in pain. I'd rather be lazy and work only 1 job than 3 jobs. And I have a bunch of tools that will satisfy that need. Watch. So I emailed my friends, my coworkers. I got a bunch of white men. Not only, I want to be clear, but I did get a bunch. Number 2, I got an internal candidate. Well, an internal candidate is super safe. Someone who's already at the company. In fact, I got multiple internal candidates. They said, oh, you should promote this person. You should hire that person. So the risk is, if you have a company that doesn't have all the diverse population at once, when you reach out for referrals, who is your mostly homogenous group going to produce, right? Who are they going to give you? They're going to give you mostly people like themselves. And if you hire inside the company, which is the safest and fastest thing of all, the company's already who it is, and so you're going to stay that way. So someone here is asking, define best. Danny asked that. This is, of course, the question. Best outcome. And Danny, as is her job as our diversity Jedi, would like to push me to consider the value of adding diversity to my team, which might improve the variety of thinking and the variety of opinions, backgrounds, and perspectives in a way that would augment my team and make it better over the long term. And that is a great, honest, wonderful vision. That's like the angel on my right shoulder. Now we're going to talk about the devil on my left shoulder. The devil on my left shoulder, as a result of making this post that I showed you earlier and feeling that I should get back to all these people, when they reply to me, when they send me notes, even if they're not the best qualified, I feel like it's civil to send them a note back and say, well, I don't think you fit this role, but you might fit that role, or I'm afraid I don't have any openings in my team for you, but maybe you should try this other thing. When I send back to them, I've been doing that at night, late into the night. And, it's 7:15 right now. I will end up replying to people on LinkedIn tonight very late. So the devil on my shoulder says, this is a lot of damn work. And I'm not sure I'll be successful. And here I have an easy way to get somebody who can take this job off of me. And in doing that, also relieves me of the recruiting job. So I go from 3 jobs back to just my job. So the angel says, be a good citizen. Plan for the long-term future of your team. Find this wonderful person who will bring you all this new perspective and thinking. The devil on my other shoulder says, fill the role and you can go back to the life being easy. Now, let's all be honest, because the great thing about Twitch chat, it's super honest. Which one will you normally do? Yeah, Dr. Miller, the devil is very tempting there, right? The devil is very tempting, particularly because there's some research on this. There is some research on this that shows, what does the research show? I was reading chart and I lost track of it. Sorry. I've read some books. I could pull them up in a minute. One of them is called The Leader Habit by Martin Lanik, and there's another one. But what Lanik's research shows is that things that are far away with an uncertain payoff are not nearly as motivating as things that are near term with a certain payoff. And this is fundamentally the challenge of diversity. The extra work to go find the diverse candidate might pay off someday, and I might get a great person who improves my team in some way I can't quite put my finger on. Even though I believe the research that I cited myself and that Danny is talking about in chat right now, even though I believe the research is fuzzy. It doesn't tell me what's going to be better about my life tomorrow. That's the key. That research tells me your life will be better, your team will be smarter, it'll get better results. I believe it the same way, I believe meditation would be good for me and that bacon is bad for me. I believe it. But putting a butt in that empty chair next week is better for me next week in ways I can tangibly figure out. I get to stop spending time recruiting, and I get to cut back my schedule of meetings. 2 tangible, immediate benefits. So that's the reason the devil has an advantage, is because those things are things I'm sure of. How am I sure? Because 2 weeks ago, before this guy quit, I didn't have to do them. Now I do. I know when I have someone, I won't have to anymore. If I replace the white guy I had with somebody else, will I get to magically better land where Danny is pushing me correctly in chat to find better? Maybe. I don't know what better will look like. I believe research that says it'll be better somehow. I don't know, because each person differs. So, yeah. Danny does it, I don't know if Danny's talking to me or somebody else, but the links are there. I believe the research, but the research isn't something I can taste or feel. It's not something I can lock onto the same way as watching my calendar have less meetings. Okay, someone else. It's all cool. People be nice to Danny, by the way. We're going to, she's a coworker of mine and is trying really hard, probably getting a lot of stress, trying to be polite and supportive here. So, what? I apparently can't type. Good. Oh. There we go. So I've made Danny a VIP, which, by the way, Danny, that probably means you should be able to post links now, I think. The chatbot may. All right. So the final thing, because I promised to talk about this and a lot of people came, what else can I share about how executive search works? So I guess there are 3 ways to get an executive job. 1, be found in like when the leader reaches out. Leaders now post on LinkedIn. The leaders try to find their own people. That's one way. Second way is build your network. The third way is realize executive headhunters will come looking for you. This is really important, by the way. We don't care a fig. Many of you are used to thinking about your resume and where you're going to apply for a job. When the executive recruiters I work with go looking for people, they have no concern whatsoever whether or not you're looking for a job. Instead, they're sending me a list of people and saying, do you like Sarah? Do you like Fred? Do you like Anupam? Do you like name? And they're giving me their LinkedIn. By the way, it's 100% LinkedIn. Nothing I reviewed today was a resume, not a single one. It was all LinkedIn links. Check out this person on LinkedIn, this person on LinkedIn, this person on LinkedIn. And then the question was, they all have jobs. They're at Facebook. They're at Google. They're at someplace else. They're wherever they are. For everyone I said this person fits, you should call them. The recruiters will now call that person who already has a job and say, hey, do you want to come work over here? It's a better job for a better person. So that's how executive search works. It's not, you can apply. There's an apply now button. Sometimes people apply. It's great. Sometimes we hire the people who apply. But it's mostly being findable. And so I realize very few to no people in this chat are executives right now, this minute, today. But one of the reasons some of you watch is you aspire to go there. Understand that at the higher levels of leadership, and not only leadership, at the higher levels in any field, are you a PhD? Are you an experienced professional, engineer, painter, fill in the blank? People find you not because you're looking for a job, but because they're calling you and trying to get you to take a different job for their company than the one you're at. And in that, they often give you the opportunity to make more money or get a bigger title or bigger responsibility. So college job hunting, right? I see Gene here says, I'm still a student, but you're headed there. College job hunting is, particularly now in a recession, is students chasing companies begging for jobs. That's the current relationship. But for executives, and for not just executives, managers in many cases, people with doctorates, people with lots of experience in a specialized field, any type of expertise, it's instead people, professional recruiters, calling in and saying, won't you take this better job? So that's kind of how it works. And Ed G works in construction. I've talked to him some. He's saying the same thing. When he was 19, I switched jobs 3 times in 1 year in the oil field because each one paid better and had more benefits. Those people were calling him, probably. So, bottom line, I think I've run out of stuff I want to say on this. I'm going to flip over and see what we have for questions. I'll answer those. I've shared what I can think of to share. If I haven't shared what you're interested in, go into our extension, which the moderators will throw up the instructions on that, and we'll start going through the questions. And I will go back to the one camera view. If you are trying to reach the broadest set of candidates, why would you post this to LinkedIn and not something broader like social media? LinkedIn is social media. It's social media for professionals. Also, if you're looking for advice on if a post can be pushed away from legal pitfalls, why not have the peer review before posting this on LinkedIn, especially from inside the company or with others' experience and thinking this mindset? That is a great question. Thank you. I did, in fact, send this post to Danny, our diversity Jedi, to get advice before I sent it out. So that's good thinking. Whoever sent in this question, you're right. And I did some of that. At the same time, I could have asked official HR. I could have asked legal. That's slow. And I was working at night. And I only have so much time to basically get approvals. So I decided to take a risk on the fact that I mostly knew what I was doing, and I'd probably, hopefully, get forgiven if I did it right, and I went ahead. That's why I say my views on social media, whether LinkedIn or here, represent me and not Amazon or Twitch. Second, the first part of this question is, if you're trying to reach the broadest set of candidates, why would you post to LinkedIn? Because for executives, that is where they all are. As I said just a few minutes ago, 100% of the candidates are our executive search team found and sent me. 100% they referred to by LinkedIn links. So unfortunately, that might not be true in all fields. If I wanted engineers, if I wanted, I don't know, pick something else, I might be better off posting on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. All executives have a LinkedIn profile. And so if you want to go down the professional path, as Devin and I say all the time, you need to be on LinkedIn. It may change someday. Someone may disrupt it. Some new TikTok equivalent for executives may arise, but it has not yet. So I think that question is pretty short. How can I let you know I'm gay on my LinkedIn profile? I wonder if this is a troll question. Why do you need to let me know? If you really need to let me know, maybe write, by the way, I'm gay. Okay. Next question. When you're recruiting for an executive role, how much of it is posting the role and seeing who applies versus proactively reaching out? So I covered this, and this question's just, I had answered it without knowing it. So this question reads in its entirety. When you're recruiting for an executive level role, how much is posting the role and seeing who applies versus how much is proactively reaching out? More of it is proactively reaching out. However, I want to be careful. I think it's true. I don't have a perfect memory. The only potentially qualified minority candidate I have seen so far in this search has come from me reaching out. So it's mostly, from me posting. Reaching out has generated a lot of great candidates. I think the only minority candidate came from posting. So it's good to blend these tactics. Fizzy, when's the next watch party? It's going to be, I don't know yet, soon though, because now I believe they've extended watch parties to all viewers of U.S. creators who have Prime. So all the people who were excluded before in my audience who have Prime will be able to watch. So people like Geeky Benji, if he's still here, will be able to watch. I love it. Furrowkey's link comes through because he's staff, but the mod bot still scolds him. The bot tried to purge him and the wrench prevented it. That's really funny. Oh, man. I've created a monster. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. So we only have a couple more here. If you want to vote on questions, you have your chance. When do you decide to hide somebody who does not match your qualifications list? I'm not sure what that means. When do you decide to hide somebody who does not meet your qualifications list? Oh, when do you decide to hire? Basically, you do it based on an interview. In other words, qualifications Okay, this is a flaw in how we explain jobs to people. We don't actually have a good language to explain what we want from someone in a job. Nobody does, by the way. It's not any one company. It's not executives. The best way we've come up with is these two clunky systems where I post a job description with a bunch of stuff in it that says what I think I want. But what I really want, what every hiring manager wants, what every company wants. I just noticed if I wear a black shirt, my microphone is invisible because my mic is right here. But a black shirt in a dark room, it's invisible. Brilliant. I might have to go to black shirts all the time because the mic's right here, but nobody can tell. That's kind of cool. Okay. What companies want is someone who can solve a problem to make them money. So when you're a company and you hire someone or an individual, when you're hiring someone, you want a problem solved that either saves you money, saves you effort, or makes you money. Those are the things you want. But you can't post a job and get any useful response that says, hey, I'd like to hire somebody who can solve a problem for me. Or, hey, I want to hire somebody who can make me money. You just get flooded with weird applications with no criteria, no way to sort them out. So you could say, well, I want someone who can help me make money with software or someone who can solve my clogged toilet problem. And that might get you a little closer. But we've developed a weird language because the company wants problem solved and money made. The candidate wants money paid and decent working conditions. So I want to have a life and make money. You want to make money also and have problems solved or things done. But somehow we've not figured out how to communicate. Can you solve my problem? What is your problem? Can you solve my problem? How much will you pay me? Yes, I like that. Instead, what we do is I post a job description with all these rules, and you post a resume with all this stuff. And then we try to use those as proxies to sort this out. Because I don't know how to articulate to you in useful language the problems I need solved. And you don't know how to articulate to me in useful language the problems you can solve and how much you think that's worth. So you write a resume or a LinkedIn profile, and I write a job description. And that's actually like really crappy communication that we haven't improved on. And I think AI in the future will be much better at matching people to jobs. But it could be a little scary though too, because if the AI decides you're not employable, you're in trouble. All right. So how do I decide? I decide to hire somebody who doesn't meet the listed criteria. When in talking to them, I end up deciding they can solve my problem. That's the simplest, most truthful answer I can give you. I want someone who can do the job. My proxy for can you do the job is this list of crap at the bottom of the job description, because that's the best way I know how to describe it that you can measure and that you can ask about, you can think about. So I say, oh, well, I want someone technical. They might need to know some software development. I hope they've managed people because this job involves managing people. But what is my actual problem I want solved? And this is really good. This is no longer about executive search. It's super valuable for everyone who will ever hunt for a job. Understand that what the hiring manager really wants is they want their problem solved. And so you want to convince them not that you have all the criteria, but that you can solve their problem. So what's my problem here? My problem is I have 4 teams totaling 50 people who need to ship a lot of software in the game space, and I need a leader who can both help that happen and figure out what they should do next. So that leader needs to not only be helping them execute and hiring the team and managing out people who aren't succeeding and mentoring people who can be helped to succeed. They need to be doing all the stuff of running a team. And then they need to be figuring out what we should do next strategically to have a bigger business. That's what I need. The weird thing is, this job description is how we go about expressing that. So maybe my next post on LinkedIn will try and describe what I need, and it'll be weird. Omni, you said hello earlier, and I saw that. Thank you. That was nice of you. Someone else said that I am an ADHD VP. That is sadly true. This is a no shit true story. Now probably close to 30 years ago, but at least 25 years ago, I bought a book on adult ADHD, wondering if maybe I had it. I was never able to finish the book. So that's what I can tell you about that topic. Let's move on to the next question. Will you consider executives from different industries? Could you take a person who leads a 10,000 strong person org in healthcare and plug them into a 10,000 person team at Amazon? Potentially, yes. Actually, at the 10,000 level, it's probably easier. Because at 10,000, you're no longer managing specific technologies, sciences, creativity, whatever. You are pure personnel management and organizational dynamics. So the further you go in terms of scope of your team, very generally speaking, the less domain expertise you need. When you're an individual contributor, you need to know the job you're doing. When you're managing 5 or 6 individual contributors, and so you have a total team scope of 5 or 6, you better know pretty much what those people are doing, because you're going to need to be able to teach it to them. You're going to need to be able to mentor them in that skill. When you're managing 5,000 people, some of whom are lawyers and some are product managers and whatever, it's mostly about how do you lead the team, how do you hire, how do you think about the business, and it's very far removed. So, in this case, in technology, it is commonly thought that to lead technology and to really envision new technology, you need some amount of technology background. How much is hotly debated, but it is common thought that you need at least some. So, yes, we consider executives from other fields for sure. I can't give you a wrench, Danny, so your posts will go through, but you can send them to one of our mods. Hopefully they're still paying attention. Looks like they are. Looks like 40 Pink is definitely on it. Some of the others might be here too. I just don't have the power, and the VP apparently doesn't get you through that part of the auto mod. Sorry. That gets you through like slow mode and stuff. All right. Whatever. So I think we've solved that one. Let's go on to the next question. We have just a couple more. Is there anything a candidate can do beyond applying electronically if they do not have a diverse network established? It can be disheartening applying electronically to hundreds of jobs and getting no calls back. Oh, this is general career advice. There are a ton of things you can do. I can't cover them all here. But I have lots of stuff on YouTube that covers parts of job hunting. And there's a book I'll recommend, which is What Color is Your Parachute by Richard Nelson Bowles, Boles. What Color is Your Parachute? I'd say go read that book. You can work on building your network. Networks are not that hard to build. And you can actually, depending on your industry, walk in the front door and ask to talk to HR or a hiring manager directly. Hey, Liger, go save some people, buddy. Be safe. And thank you for being here. All right. We're going to jump ahead because I can't. This is like a 5-day question I've answered before. What are the types of things that impress you in candidates that are light on experience? Great question. Entrepreneurship. So all other things being equal, I'd rather hire the person who's got some experience doing something on their own and making it successful than only, quote unquote, only corporate experience. I'd rather hire somebody who's done something risky or has done something unusual, because it shows creativity, it shows risk taking. Another thing that impresses me is references. I have a candidate. There is a candidate for this job who has several people I trust lobbying that the person being recommended is really good, right? He has several people lobbying that he's right for the role. So that's impressive because he's got a bunch of advocates. And advocates are hard to get. Advocates I trust are even harder to get. And so the fact he has advocates I trust means a lot, because on paper, he doesn't appear to be a perfect fit. So I have to listen to those advocates, though. Like that, well, I don't have to. I choose to. This is a good question, by the way. Whoever put it in, if you're still around in chat, good job. What else impresses me? Leadership in other forums. If you're not, maybe you're not an executive, but you lead a nonprofit or you do something else. So there's a few things, they all stick out. They're basically, there are ways that show that here's what it is. They're things that show that you have interest and ambition beyond just grinding away at your day job. That's fundamentally, I'm looking for some sign that you're, Liger just left. But Liger and I often talk about, he's got this, I'll mess it up. But I think it's a Buddhist observation that most people are asleep through their lives. They're not actually paying attention. They're just trying to survive. They're not actually trying to improve themselves or self-examine. So I'm looking for evidence that you're alive, you're awake, that you're not just grinding away. Hey, Licorice, late to the party, but hello. Okay. Let's move on. How do you accurately judge if you have been hired due to diversity quotas? Well, I have no idea. I don't think I'm qualified to answer that. I could rattle off a bunch of blank suspicions. I also, I'm not sure who has diversity quotas. You could argue, for example, this is the problem. When you try and have any type of affirmative action, then it's assumed that everyone who got hired was hired because of some quota, some hidden quota, and that's what caused you to be hired. So that's actually really corrosive. And it's a problem in our society because anytime, like now, see, this is another good point about hiring managers being screwed if they try and do anything with diversity. I'm in a lose-lose situation now that I've talked about this on stream for my next hire. If I do hire a non-diverse candidate, all the people I've talked to about diversity will say, you hypocrite, or at least some of them will, you hypocrite, you talked about diversity, but look, it's another white guy. On the other hand, if I hire someone from any other background, there will be those people who say, oh, well, you only hired him, her, etc., because they're diverse. They're not qualified. Lose-lose. And it's just terrible. It's because people are cynics and because simple conspiracy explanations are very satisfying. People already believe what they believe. The people who feel that there isn't enough diversity naturally feel I probably won't work that hard on it and I'm probably part of the problem. And then they see a white guy hired and they're like, yep, see, it's just the same old system, same old glass ceiling, same old discrimination. On the other hand, the other people who believe that diversity is a bunch of BS and it should all just be earn your way up. Yeah, of course it comes from a position of insecurity, waterlord. The other set of folks that feel that diversity is just a bunch of politically correct bullshit and that it's all just whining people who can't earn their way in the world, they already have their mind made up too. So when I hire someone who's from a diverse background, it's very easy for them to say, yeah, you hired the whiner. Look at you, brown nosing to the goals, whatever. Remember, people are heroes of their own narrative. They're heroes of their own narrative where they want to believe. They tell themselves a story and being wrong about their own story. I talk about this all the time on the channel because it's super important that you understand it. It will help you get through all kinds of life, not just diversity. People want to be the heroes of their own narrative. And what that means is anything that contradicts their internal narrative is very painful for them. Yeah, confirmation bias, Donve, same thing. They want to believe, they don't, having to change their mind and reevaluate what they've believed is super painful. And most people run away from pain. They'd rather believe something false and rationalize it than believe that something about their own beliefs might need to change. So, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to take 2 more questions here, and I'm going to go into speed run mode. How do you prepare for a networking interview with an executive aside from looking up jobs they may want to ask you about? What questions should you ask? How do you make sure not to waste their time and make an impact all in 30 minutes? This would be a super long answer. I've done a lot of stuff about how to interview successfully, but being time conscious matters. In other words, executives are always busy. They feel incredibly pressed for time. So being very conscious of that time, trying to be succinct and organized is my one advice beyond my standard advice on good interviews that you can find on YouTube. Okay. We're going to keep going to get through these because we're in speed run mode. So we're going to save that one off. Let's see. Why can't corporations, especially in tech, hire people based on their merits rather than their color, skin or gender? We try very hard to hire people based on their merits. That is our goal. But what we would like to do is make sure that we get to talk to people from all backgrounds, because there is evidence that people who might have equal talent or merit do not apply in equal numbers due to other factors like intimidation, like perceived discrimination, like they have equal talent, but they didn't have equal access to education. So this is a hugely deep argument that is exactly why diversity is so touchy. I came from a relatively well-to-do family. Everyone in my family was college educated. My dad had a PhD, my mom had a master's degree, and they sent me to a private college because they had the money to do it. This person next to me grew up in some inner city in this country or not, very poor with a single parent household. And when they got out of high school, had no money for college. Do I merit my executive role more than that person might have? Does that have to do with skin color or gender? Well, poverty is correlated to skin color. Higher education and opportunity are correlated to gender. Am I arguing that it's always the case that every person from a diverse background was less privileged or had less access to education? No, we're talking about trends. I understand, Sweet Prince, that not every person who happens to be Caucasian also happens to come from a well-to-do family. But go look at the overall statistics of who goes to Harvard or who got into Yale. Okay, we're talking about patterns here. And so we're trying to break the pattern, not individual cases. When it comes down to the individual case, as I said at the beginning, as I said in my job posting, I will hire the most qualified person I can find. This is about trying to find more people who might be qualified. All right, last question. I'll answer this one only because it's our standard answer. This question I answer all the time. What's the best way for a new manager to earn trust, gain influence, and climb the executive ladder? We will end, everybody together, my loyal chat. What are the 5 steps of the magic loop? Because the answer to this is run the magic loop. All right, let's type them out in chat. Number 1, do your job well. That's right, Licorice. Nailed it. Number 2, ask your boss how you can help. Number 3, when the boss says what you can do, do it. Yep, LG Air, nailed it. Do the work. Everybody, together now. Number 4, what's number 4? After you have done it, go back and ask, what can I do that will help me grow? That also helps you. Number 4 is long. Oh, there's so many wags here. You're all going to burn. Furrow, you're an intern. I fear for the people above you. Everybody's your boss. Now get out in the parking lot and wash my car. So, and finally, number 5, do it from number 4. Repeat, then repeat steps 4 and 5. So, we need our subs in the channel, of which there's a few. It's always, always, always the magic loop is the answer to how to get ahead in your job. Someday we're going to do a whole show on the magic loop. But with that, we've had a good chat. We've answered a bunch of questions. We've managed to be mostly civil and polite while doing so on an incredibly divisive topic. I appreciate people being polite, civil, being well-behaved, it's okay to disagree here. It is totally okay to have differing opinions. It's totally fine, great to have live discussions here and in our Discord. I appreciate our diversity Jedi at Amazon, Danny, coming in and joining the chat. I appreciate all the people who ask hard questions and pushed us. And I hope you all have learned a lot. Nothing would make me happier than 20 years from now or 5 years from now, if you're a lot faster than me, to see all of you in this chat, if that's what you want from your lives, rocking the big executive jobs, bigger than mine. So go rule the world, go change the world. And as T Weirdo says, if you love the channel, please feel free to subscribe. We love our subscribers. We donate the money. And then you can use all of our cool emotes. So with that, everybody, I will be back on Tuesday. I'm going to talk on Tuesday, completely different topic, on what companies and what companies I think people should found in the pandemic. The new things we need built. The new Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We're going to talk business, and it's going to be more chat involved. It's not going to be me lecturing. I want to know from you guys what you think people should start businesses in for the pandemic, and we will debate it. We'll argue politely, as always. We'll fight. We'll have fun. We'll rage. And with that, thank you very much. Cheers. I'm out.